A nightmare situation is currently unfolding, and it seems no one is prepared for how much Pokemon cards can potentially collapse in price within the next 5 years. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is because Pokemon has just officially revealed their latest figures with how many Pokemon cards that were printed in the last year. And a crazy 10.2 billion Pokemon cards were printed in 2024. Now, I'm on the Poke Beach article where it speaks about the amount of Pokemon cards that were printed. So you can see here that it says the Pokemon Company has released its latest figures report revealing 10.2 billion Pokemon cards were produced from March 2024 to March 2025. Now, it does say that there was 1.7 billion fewer cards than in 2023 when 11.9 billion were printed, which is a decrease of around 14%. Now, yes, it was less. So I know a lot of people are saying, wait, they printed less cards. The thing you got to remember as well is that Pokemon cards were kind of dwindling a little bit in popularity as well until Pokemon TCG Pocket came out. I think a lot of people forget that, okay? I think a lot of people are saying, wow, see, they printed less. But don't forget, when Temporal Forces came out, when Twilight Masquerade came out, when Stellar Crown released, the demand for Pokemon cards was nowhere near what it was like during 2021. But then what happened? The Pokemon TCG Pocket boom happened, right? So you got to remember as well, yes, less cards were printed, but they probably didn't have the demand like they had today. Because now it's a complete shift, right? Pokemon cannot print enough product to meet demand. But you got to also remember, right? It was a different time period. The whole huge hysteria and demand happened in November of 2024. So I think a lot of people are commenting and saying, hey, oh, you know what? Pokemon printed less products. It is true. But you got to remember as well, it's a business, right? You're not going to just go in and just print wild amounts for a set like Temporal Forces or even Twilight Masquerade. Even when Twilight Masquerade was released or announced, people weren't like obsessed with the set. Now hindsight's doing its thing and a lot of people are just loving Twilight Masquerade. The thing is with these new sets, everyone loves the sets as soon as they're revealed. So that's why you can look at it and say, hey, they were a little bit less. Of course, the quality and the demand for the sets didn't really ramp up until the end of 2024. That's something to keep in mind. And that's why I want to talk about the current Pokemon market along with Pokemon cards, talk about how much are being printed right now and what we can expect within the near future, along with asking what risks are there when such an astronomical amount of Pokemon cards are entering the market each year. Because there's also a chance that this is going to be a serious turning point within the hobby, which I will be talking about as well. Though I think the first area we need to cover is what I actually like to call the awakening. Now, this is a term that I've come up with, but I actually feel it really fits the current Pokemon market at the moment. And the reason why I call it the awakening. Right now, you've got all these hype beasts entering the hobby. You've got people so excited to be talking about Pokemon cards again. Everyone's just coming in the hobby at an excessive rate. Though here's the thing, just as quickly as all these people are coming in the hobby, they can leave just the same way. And when Pokemon is now printing to cater to these new audiences and all these people that are just jumping in, you may have a little bit of a thing where people realize, hey, what kind of prices have I just been paying on Pokemon cards? Hey, I just bought this Pikachu for 485 US. Now this Pikachu's selling for 300 US. Wow, what a waste of money have I just made? Man, all these Pokemon cards are trash. You know what? I'm gonna sell it all, and it kind of collectively happens across the board. I don't think Pokemon ever thought, especially a few years ago, that they would get cards like Moonbreon or, you know, the Umbreon from Prismatic Evolutions getting these prices. I don't think that was even something they considered. A whole new paradigm has shifted, but that's the thing. I kind of always think that, yes, it's great that the hobby is growing. Yes, it's awesome that more and more people are coming in. I can see how many people are just watching this channel every day. More and more people are excited about Pokemon cards. People can see their investment potential. All these things are happening, but don't forget, you can have people that kind of just awaken and say, you know what? I've kind of been overspending on Pokemon cards at the moment. I've kind of bit off more than I can chew, and now I'm realizing, you know what? Maybe this isn't where I want to be placing my money, and it happens, right? That's why you got to be very pragmatic and careful when you buy Pokemon cards, because when you see these figures, 10.2 billion cards, that is a lot of cards in the market, right? A lot of people want to collect their master sets today, but you know what? All those cards that you're buying today are trending right now. If they're not trending in a few years, you could have a huge amount of people who kind of exit the hobby and prices just continue to come down in price. price. Now, the next area we need to cover is the artificial scarcity, because how can Pokemon be printing 10.2 billion cards in a single year, yet people still say that they can't find product? Though, before we get into that topic, I do want to cover today's video sponsor, which is Surfshark VPN. Now, this is a tool I highly recommend, and also how you can actually get 4 extra months completely for free. Now, I'm sure you've all heard of a VPN, but if you've never used one, well, simply put, a VPN is essentially a virtual private network that encrypts your internet connection and hides your online activity. Now, what's really unique about Surfshark is that it works across unlimited devices, which you can use between phone, laptop, and tablet. Though there's some real benefits. For example, when connecting to public Wi-Fi networks can be risky because they often lack encryption. But with Surfshark VPN, your connection is encrypted and secure, so you can safely browse even on public networks. It also becomes a very good tool when traveling. For example, when I'm overseas, I'm actually able to access all my Australian TV shows no matter where I am in the world. And what's so cool is that you can just try Surfshark because there is a 30-day money-back guarantee. And if you do use my code Phillips at checkout, you'll get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN completely free. A huge thank you for Surfshark for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back into it. You gotta remember, right? 10.2 billion cards is a lot to come in a single year. And then you kind of also have to ask yourself, how much of this is artificial? Is there a bit of artificial scarcity going on? Not even on Pokemon's part, but I'm just talking on the community. We all kind of agree that the Pokemon cards are rare. We all say that. But when you got 10.2 billion cards coming onto the market, and then you're thinking, oh, that Umbreon from Prismatic Evolutions, oh, the Bubble Mew, and reprints are becoming more and more and more coming onto the market, you kind of have to ask yourself, how rare are these cards actually? And that's what I think a lot of people are gonna learn as the years go on. We can see that with Gengar VMAX right now. We can see how far it's coming down in price. And you know what? No more Fusion Strike is entering the market. Whatever there is of Fusion Strike right now in the world is pretty much it. Unless there's some real crazy thing that happens, Evolving Skies, Fusion Strike, Chill and Rain, they're old sets. We just deal with what we have in the market right now. But all these new sets, they're still getting reprinted. Scarlet and Violet, not one set has stopped reprinting at the moment. You're still getting restocks of these sets. So that's why you gotta really kind of pace yourself when you're spending on these hobbies, because you don't want it to backfire, right? And I think that's what I always tell my audience. You always gotta be careful so it doesn't backfire. Now also, I just want to say, if you have been enjoying the video so far, definitely feel free to like the video and subscribe to the channel. My name's Phil and I cover topics around Pokemon investing, Pokemon TCG, and general Pokemon card related content. It's definitely always awesome seeing new people on board. Definitely feel free to subscribe. Now, another area we need to speak about is, will chase cards begin losing their identity? With how many cards are being printed and so many chase cards entering the market, the chance of having like a base set Charizard or, you know, another Moonbreon could fade away. You got to seriously think about this, right? Because there's so many new products coming on the market, so many new chase cards. It's becoming hard to keep up. And even me, I love collecting my top chase cards. But even when I look at the Sword and Shield era, I found it a bit easier to tell you which cards were the standouts of that era. Right now, I can still do that. You know, you got Moonbreon, you got Giratina V, you got Gengar VMAX, and of course you got some of the Evolutions from Evolving Skies. They're kind of your top chase cards. Right now, the Scarlet and Violet era is just delivering so many cards. When you look at Prismatic Evolutions, not only do you have all the Evolutions as chase cards, but you've also got the Cerulean Edge, you've got the Roaring Moon, you got the Raging Bolt, and then when you look at Twilight Masquerade, you got Greninja, you've got Latias EX from Surging Sparks, you got Pikachu. The list keeps going on and on. And while I agree it's incredible to have so many cards, the market also needs to be careful how much they're willing to spend on these cards. Like I was talking about before, that awakening that can happen. Same thing with these chase cards. When everything is a chase card, when everything is rare, nothing becomes rare. If you're buying cards for over 400 or 500 USD, you also need to make sure that, you know, that chase card that you buy at 400 USD, the other one that you buy, you know, the other 7 that you buy, are they gonna be able to maintain the price point? And that's why I think sealed is becoming a little bit more interesting right now to be purchasing items. Sealed has utility, and I speak about this a lot. You've got people that can actually open sealed product. You know, you've got the whole rip and ship culture now as well. So sealed's a bit more of an attractive purchase than these singles, because the singles are just coming onto the market. Every time a new pack gets opened, more and more singles are coming on the market. So that's something you have to consider as well. Now, I speak a lot about artificial demand, but even when we look at Sinistcha Special Illustration Rare and Greninja Special Illustration Rare, when you look at these two cards side by side, they actually have identical pull rate. These two cards are as rare as each other, but look what happens when you see the difference in price. Now here's the thing, same pull rates, same rarity. If you pull Sinistro, if you pull Greninja, you actually had the same chance of pulling either or, but the Greninja is just way more desired because so many people love Greninja, all these fans across the world. Greninja's like Generation 6's Charizard, so because of that, it has far more demand. But here's the thing, and this is something that you really need to consider. Yes, it's rare in terms of how hard it is to pull, but no, it's not that rare with how many packs are being opened and how many are on the market at the moment. When you look at those staggering figures of 10.2 billion cards printed in a year, not of all time, in just 1 year, that's a real big reminder of how many cards are actually coming on the market. That's why you always have to pace yourself in this hobby, and I'm a big believer that yes, Pokemon cards are great, yes, they're an amazing thing that you can do in your pastime, but you also need to be careful because who knows what's going to happen in 5-6 years time. If the hobby continues to grow, what happens if 15 billion cards are printed? 20 billion? What happens then? The figures begin getting out of the realms of common sense. So that's why you have to think when we're seeing these, the Pokemon market actually is in a little bit of a tight spot. If you're spending a lot on Pokemon cards at the moment, you got to ask yourself, do you just love Pokemon cards that much that you're not going to be bothered whether the price goes down or up? Or do you really love Pokemon cards for, their future potential and the chance they may rise in the future? Because I really like that part. There's something I love, that I can collect something that's a hobby of mine. I understand it really well. And there is a chance that, these cards and these chase cards can grow as well in value. For me, that ticks a lot of boxes. For me, that's like, hey, I'm actually mixing the skills I've learned from all the years of playing Pokemon games, all the years of understanding everything, I can bring that into this world as well. So it's a real awesome hobby for me because of that. But at the same time as well, I know if you're just buying it because you think they're going to rise in value, then you may be in a problem, because I actually have no qualms or issues. If my Pokemon cards don't go up in price or they drop a lot, it doesn't actually bother me that much because I have a huge connection to collecting in general. Now, something to consider is that there is a chance the bubble could burst if a lot of people left the hobby, or if this trend eventually became less trendy. We've all seen trends come and go, fidget spinners, NFTs in 2021 and 2022. And yes, while I do agree that Pokemon is far more stable than a lot of other franchises, nothing is certain as well. And now, as much as I love Pokemon cards and I know that their future is a bit more solid than a lot of other areas, right? Because even when you look at Pokemon games, what other games rise in price like Pokemon? Same thing with plushies, dude. Pokemon plushies also go up in price. So it's not, they're just gonna go crash and go to zero. Now, the thing is, Pokemon cards were printed far less before 2021, and we can now see it's kind of becoming a little bit excessive. Now, yes, while Pokemon market has been quite challenging to keep up with at the moment, there still is some good news. For example, the Pokemon video games in that area is really booming, and we have some more exciting news coming up with Pokemon Legends EA. Now, if you didn't know, I've actually launched the second YouTube channel where I discuss Pokemon games, and I actually reveal the most rare Pokemon in each video game within this video that's appearing on screen right here. Within this video, I talk about the challenging and rare Pokemon to obtain in video games. If you do enjoy this channel, I'm sure you'll love the videos on my other channel, Philip's Trick Room. Click the video that's appearing on screen, watch that video, and I'll see you there.